What unfolded in this courtroom left every soul standing frozen, including the judge himself. Amidst the silence of a packed gallery filled with reporters, lawyers, and anxious onlookers, no one foresaw that a little girl in a delicate pink dress would become the epicenter of the most unforgettable moment of the judge's tenure. She appeared so fragile, scarcely old enough to grasp why fate had brought her there. Then, in a moment that stunned the room, the little girl did something utterly unexpected. She sent the dog a faint hidden signal, barely perceivable by human eyes. Yet Rex caught it instantly. That loyal German shepherd already understood her silent cry for help. Rex, the imposing canine sitting faithfully beside her, lifted his head as soon as her hand stirred. His ears snapped erect. His entire stance shifted. Then came the low, menacing growl, a chilling sound that rippled through the courtroom like a wave, causing every heart to jump. And moments later, before anyone could comprehend what was unfolding, the judge slammed down his gavel and bellowed, "Halt the proceedings." The attorneys stood paralyzed. The crowd murmured in confusion. What secret did that little girl transmit? What had the dog sensed? And why did the judge abruptly bring the trial to a standstill? What truth had the girl quietly unveiled, without uttering a single word? What happened in the following 60 seconds compelled the judge to stop the entire trial, exposing a reality no one was ready to face. Stay tuned. The truth will shake you to your core. Before we dive in, don't forget to like and subscribe. Honestly, I'm curious. Where are you watching from? Drop your country's name in the comments. It's incredible to see how far our tale reaches. The heavy, time-worn doors of courtroom 3C creaked open, releasing a soft echo that lingered in the hushed air. Rows of spectators swiveled their heads, expecting another officer or lawyer to enter. But what stepped inside was far more extraordinary. A little girl dressed in pink, no older than 6, nervously clutching a worn stuffed bunny in one trembling hand as she stepped forward. Yet it wasn't the girl who would leave the room breathless. It was her loyal companion at her side. A towering German shepherd clad in a pristine police K9 vest trotted alongside her with steady, measured steps. His amber gaze swept the crowd, calculating, shielding, protecting. Even Judge Harrington, a man rarely shaken by anything, arched an eyebrow at the sight. A child testifying was uncommon enough. Having a police dog accompany her to the witness stand was downright unprecedented. The bailiff moved forward, ready to intervene, but hesitated when the dog's handler gave a subtle nod. "He's authorized, Your Honor," the officer whispered softly. "She never goes anywhere without him." Judge Harrington reclined in his chair, adjusting his glasses as he watched the girl awkwardly settle into the witness seat. Her tiny legs dangled well above the floor, too short to reach the ground below. She nervously smoothed her dress with trembling hands, while the dog sat steadfast next to her chair, poised and attentive. Gentle yet watchful, almost like a guardian. A heavy hush enveloped the room, the kind of silence thick with anticipation, as if the air itself was holding its breath for something profound to unfold. The attorneys exchanged sharp glances. The jurors leaned forward, their focus razor sharp. Even the court clerk paused, fingers suspended above the keyboard. Something about the girl's presence, or perhaps the dog's unwavering loyalty, made everyone instinctively brace for the unexpected. Judge Harrington cleared his throat and said softly, "Please state your name." "Sweetheart?" A rare gentleness in his usually stern tone. She parted her lips, but not a single word escaped. Her eyes flicked from the crowd to the lawyers, then back down to her clasped hands in her lap. Her tiny fingers nervously clutched the fabric of her dress. The dog, sensing her unease, tilted his ears and gently lowered his head toward her. Judge Harrington observed the exchange intently. There was something unspoken in the air, something charged and heavy, tightening the tenure in the room. No one realized yet, but this quiet moment was the calm before a courtroom storm that would erupt with emotion. A moment etched forever in the judge's memory. The courtroom held its breath as the little girl finally raised her eyes. They were wide, not with naivety, but with a weight far beyond her years. Judge Harrington softened his tone. "It's okay, sweetheart. Take all the time you need. We're here to support you." Her grip on the stuffed bunny tightened, clutching it like a lifeline. The German Shepherd shifted his shoulder, leaning softly against her leg, a silent reassurance. The bond between them was undeniable, a connection forged through pain and heartache, something the courtroom could not yet fully grasp. Across the room, Prosecutor Miller stood calmly, careful to keep his presence gentle. "We know you're brave," he said quietly. "You came because you saw something important, something only you can help us understand." Whispers rippled through the crowd, but the bailiff swiftly raised a hand to silence them. Everyone knew this case was different, delicate, and unsettling. The fact that the key witness was a child cast a shadow of unease over the entire community. Though the details remained sealed, rumors spread of a dangerous man, a crime that unfolded near the girl's home, a night when she was the sole witness to a harrowing truth. Her mother, seated in the gallery with tear-filled eyes, gripped a tissue so tightly it crumpled in her hands. She had fought fiercely to shield her daughter from reliving the nightmare, but the law demanded answers, and the girl was the only one who held them. Judge Harrington spoke again, his words measured and kind. "You're not alone up here," he assured her, nodding to the dog at her side. "Your loyal companion is here with you, and everyone here wants nothing but the truth, never to frighten you." The girl glanced first at the judge, then at the large dog beside her. Her lips quivered, yet she managed a small nod. What the courtroom didn't yet comprehend, what even the judge hadn't fully realized, was just how vital this dog truly was. He wasn't just a comfort animal or a symbol in this moment. He was specially trained to assist vulnerable victims, especially children who had faced terror and trauma. And this little girl, she had endured a pain no one in the room could fully imagine. Today she was more than a witness. She was the key to unlocking the truth. The truth the dog had sensed long before any adult understood it. And within moments, that truth would shake the courtroom to its very core. The German Shepherd sat proudly at the girl's side, but there was something different about him. Something that made every officer in the room stand taller. Because this wasn't just any K9. This was Rex, one of the department's most trusted service dogs, famous not just for his sharp mind, but for his extraordinary gift to read human emotions, particularly the tremors of fear. Most in the courtroom had heard his legend, how he once found a lost child during a raging storm when hope was nearly lost. How he could unravel a lie just by reading a person's breathing rhythms and the fleeting whispers of their micro-expressions. How without hesitation he placed himself between danger and the innocent. Yet the most unforgettable story, the one only a rare few officers truly understood, was the bond he formed with a little girl months ago. It took place on a night no soul wished to recall. A night when sirens screamed through the streets, and law enforcement sped toward a home bathed in flashes of red and blue light. The girl was discovered hidden in a closet, her tiny hands pressed to her ears, trembling so fiercely she couldn't utter a single word. No grown-up could soothe her. No officer could approach her except Rex. Rex stepped forward steadily, dropped himself to the floor, and gently nudged her hand with his nose. And in that very instant, her trembling ceased. She leaned into his soft fur, and for the first time that entire night her breath found its calm. From that moment on, something unspoken blossomed between them. A silent bond, a connection so profound that the department officially dedicated Rex to her case. Wherever she moved, he followed. When panic engulfed her, he felt it. When she was lost for words, he understood every fear and frustration. Even the judge regarded Rex with quiet wonder. Most dogs fidgeted, barked, or reacted to distractions, but Rex remained utterly motionless, as if absorbing every person in the room, poised to respond to the faintest shift in the girl's breath or stance. Attorney Miller spoke with a soft assurance toward the bench. "Your Honor, Rex is expertly trained in detecting childhood trauma. He is here to bridge her communication gap even when she finds no words to speak." Judge Harrington nodded slowly, his gaze drifting back to the steadfast shepherd. "An extraordinary creature," he whispered. But to this girl he was never just extraordinary. He became her guardian, her voice, her sanctuary in a world that once held only fear for her. And as she nervously stroked the gentle fur on his back, every person in the courtroom felt it a stirring, a presence that Rex sensed long before anyone else. And whatever it was, it crept ever closer. Judge Harrington had overseen countless trials across his decades-long career, priding himself on reading a courtroom like a seasoned sailor reads the ocean, noticing every subtle shift, every quiet swell of tension. But today the currents felt wrong, something faint yet deeply disturbing. Not just the girl's trembling hands or her wavering voice, something more. It was the way her gaze kept returning, not toward her mother, nor the attorneys, nor the judge, but toward Rex. Every fleeting moment, her eyes darted to the German shepherd seated beside her, as if awaiting his signal or silently begging his permission to speak. The judge leaned forward, voice gentle and soft. "Sweetheart?" he asked. "Are you feeling all right up there?" She nodded swiftly, too swiftly, the kind of nod a frightened child offers when desperate for the questions to stop. Rex, however, responded differently. His ears twitched, head lifting slightly. He slid a bit closer to her, a silent line drawn between them. Judge Harrington noticed every movement. Attorney Miller stepped up, adjusting his glasses. "Your Honor, she can answer a few simple questions. It won't take long." Most importantly, his eyes were fixed on Rex. The dog wasn't watching her. Instead, he was intently focused on the gallery. Rex's gaze locked onto a man seated in the second row, a figure desperately trying to disappear into the crowd. The man avoided any eye contact, fidgeting in his seat the moment he realized the dog's piercing stare was locked on him. The judge cleared his throat harshly. "Sir," he addressed the gallery, "is there a reason you seem so unsettled?" The man flinched as if caught off guard. "No, Your Honor. I'm just surprised to see a dog up here." But Rex remained unwavering. In fact, his stance grew sterner, more resolute, stirring a chill down Judge Harrington's spine. Noted he muttered under his breath before turning back to the girl. "Young lady, you may begin when you're ready." But she remained silent. Her eyes flicked once more toward Rex, a subtle, almost imperceptible gesture. The judge caught it. Miller caught it. And Rex caught it too. Yet none of them fully grasped the meaning behind that glance. None realized the girl wasn't just nervous. She was silently begging for rescue. And Rex, forever watchful, was already bracing himself to act. Attorney Miller stepped forward cautiously, careful not to startle her. He set his notes on the podium and softened his tone. "Sweetheart, I'm going to ask you some very simple questions. You don't have to be afraid." Yet the girl's shoulder tensed involuntarily. She avoided looking at him, the judge, or even her mother. Her gaze locked only on Rex. The German shepherd inched closer, tail still figure towering with quiet strength, a calm, protective presence surrounding her. Her fingers grazed his fur, anchoring herself for a fleeting moment before pulling her hand back to her lap. Miller cleared his throat gently. "Can you tell us what happened that night?" The courtroom leaned in collectively, but the girl's silence blanketed the room like a suffocating fog. Her throat moved, struggling to find words, lips parting and closing repeatedly, yet no sound emerged. The judge exhaled slowly, tension tightening its grip. Rex detected the quickening of her heartbeat. He heard it pounding, smelled the raw fear radiating like an aura of heat. His ears pricked up sharply, scanning the courtroom once more. Someone was the spark of her terror. Miller tried again, voice even softer. "Sweetheart, you're safe here. No harm will come to you." The girl flinched. A barely there twitch, but Rex caught it instantly. Leaning in, he pressed his body gently against her leg. Miller pressed on. "Do you remember who you saw that night?" Her breath quickened, fingers clutching the edge of the witness chair. Tears welled in her eyes, not from sorrow but pure, unfiltered fear. Rex's head snapped toward the very man in the gallery he'd been eyeing before. A low growl vibrated in his chest, restrained but charged with watchfulness. The judge noticed, as did the bailiff. The man shifted uneasily, tugging at his sleeve, his face drained of color. Miller glanced at where Rex was fixing his stare, then back to the trembling girl. Was there someone there? Someone who frightened you? The girl's lips quivered. She whispered a single, fragile word, so faint many in the courtroom missed it. But Rex heard it clearly. Her voice cut through him. She didn't point, didn't move. Instead, she shot a fleeting glance toward the man. A tiny gesture, a silent call from a child. To Rex, it was everything. His muscles coiled with tension, his breath grew deeper. Every instinct within him screamed that something was wrong. Danger lurked inside that courtroom, and Rex was determined not to let it come any closer. A shiver coursed through the little girl the instant her eyes flickered toward the man in the gallery. It was swift, no more than a heartbeat, but the terror beneath it was unmistakable. The courtroom missed the full weight of that tiny tremor, but Rex saw it all. The German shepherd shifted his stance forward, his chest rising and falling in slow, calculated breaths. He was reading her every tremor in her hands, the inward squeeze of her knees, the trembling lips that refused to speak. Every signal told him one undeniable truth: she wasn't recalling fear, she was living it. Judge Harrington leaned in toward his microphone. "Counsel, give her a moment." His voice softened, shedding its courtroom steel for gentle concern. From the second row, her mother's breath caught a hand pressed to her mouth. The girl's trouble ran far deeper than nerves. She was sinking back into the frozen terror she had first known that dreadful night. Attorney Miller shifted, trying again. "Sweetheart, who is he to you?" he whispered. She couldn't answer. Not yet. Her chest heaved rapidly, fighting to hold back the tide of panic threatening to engulf her. Rex felt it instantly. He placed his paw gently on her foot, a signal trained only for moments of intense distress. Her eyes snapped down to his, and for one fleeting second, she drew in a sharp breath, as if the world around her steadied just enough. But then her gaze slid back to the man in the gallery, and the panic surged with doubled ferocity. The man stared, jaw clenched, cold and unreadable, masked in a forced calm that faltered beneath the fury burning in his eyes. The girl sensed it like a blade pressed to her throat. Attorney Miller caught the man's hostile glare and creased his brow. "Your Honor, I ask that the gentleman in the second row be instructed to stop intimidating the witness." The man stiffened. "I'm not doing anything!" He snapped, his voice sharp and defensive. Rex's low growl rumbled, faint but unmistakable. The judge struck his gavel. "Sir, sit down and wipe that expression off your face. This court will not tolerate any intimidation." The man clenched his jaw, but his eyes stayed hard, unyielding. The girl gripped her stuffed bunny so tightly her knuckles whitened. Memories crashed through her, the dark footsteps, the shadow looming in her doorway, the whisper that froze her solid. She wasn't just afraid of the man. She was terrified because of him. Her voice finally broke the silence. "I don't want to talk," she whispered, shrinking deeper into her chair. Judge Harrington exhaled slowly. "You're safe here," he said again. But Rex knew the harsh truth. The girl didn't feel safe, not with that man in the room, not while his gaze was fixed on her. And the reason behind her fear, the real truth keeping her silent, was a secret only Rex had started to uncover, one about to explode into the open. Rex had remained calm until now, alert, yes, but disciplined, steady, the embodiment of a K-9 professional. But the moment she whispered, "I don't want to talk," something inside him shifted like a silent alarm blaring deep in his chest. His ears pricked forward, his muscles snapped tight. His head lifted higher, every sense on high alert. Every sound and movement across the courtroom was tracked with intense focus. The crowd murmured nervously, caught between fear and awe. Attorney Miller took a careful step back from the witness stand, sensing the dog's sudden shift. Even the judge leaned forward, his eyes locked on the animal with a seriousness rarely seen in that courtroom. "Officer Daniels," the judge called in a low voice. "Is the dog all right?" Officer Daniels, Rex's handler, closed the distance quickly, his eyes widening as he read the signs clearly. "Your Honor," he said steadily. "Rex is switching to protective mode." The words rippled through the chamber. The girl felt the change instantly. She looked up at Rex, her small hand hovering just above his fur, hesitant to touch. Rex's eyes locked with hers, warm, fierce, reassuring, yet urgent. It was as if he spoke volumes without making a sound. "You are not alone. I see what you see. I feel what you feel." Then Rex snapped his head toward the gallery, not just looking, pinpointing, locking his gaze on the same man again, the one desperately trying to vanish into the crowd. The man froze beneath the dog's unwavering stare. The girl noticed her breath catching sharply. Rex's tail dropped, stiffened, then froze completely. His paws dug into the floor, his chest vibrating with a low, controlled growl. Too quiet for microphones, but loud enough for the girl and those seated in the front rows to hear. Judge Harrington's brow furrowed deeply. "Something's setting him off," he whispered. The bailiff stepped forward, hand instinctively brushing near his holster. "Shall we remove someone, Your Honor?" But the judge remained silent for a moment. His eyes never left Rex, carefully reading every deliberate movement. The dog wasn't reacting randomly or with aggression. He was responding with sharp intellect, tracking a scent, reading a heartbeat, sensing a threat. Attorney Miller swallowed hard. "Your Honor, Rex is focused on that man. There must be a reason." The man in the gallery tensed, jaw clenched. "I didn't do anything," he barked defensively, drawing far more attention than he wanted. Rex didn't waver. His eyes remained fixed on the man. The girl shrank deeper in her seat, whispering, "Rex." Her voice was soft, trembling, but the dog heard it like a cry. The judge's gavel slammed down sharply. "No one moves. No one speaks." Silence fell like a thick, weighty curtain. The air buzzed with an unseen electricity, stretching taut across the room, linking the frightened girl, the vigilant dog, and the man now sweating under the harsh courtroom lights. Rex's growl deepened, vibrating through the wooden floorboards. Whatever was unfolding, the dog sensed it first, and the shattering truth was moments away. The courtroom was swallowed by suffocating silence. Every soul frozen as Rex's low growl seemed to thrum beneath the floor itself. The judge, the lawyers, the jurors, their eyes darted between the terrified little girl and the steadfast German shepherd guarding her. But the girl wasn't looking at anyone else. Not the judge, not the attorneys, not even the man who frightened her. Her trembling gaze was locked completely on Rex. Her heart pounded fiercely in her chest, echoing in her ears. She gripped her stuffed bunny tight, struggling to breathe, struggling to speak, desperate to convey the unspoken truth to the courtroom. Then she did something no one had anticipated. She shifted her hand just a fraction, a movement so subtle it was almost unseen. Her delicate fingers curled around her dress, giving it a gentle, swift tug. Soft, hushed, nearly invisible. Almost. But Rex caught it immediately. Officer Daniels's breath hitched. That faint gesture, he recognized it at once. Such signals aren't taught to kids in courtrooms. They're reserved for the rarest emergencies. A silent call for help from those who feel most vulnerable. A message that cried, "I'm terrified. I'm unsafe. Please protect me." Rex reacted without hesitation. He rose from his seat, muscles coiled like a spring ready to snap. His tail stiffened, ears locked forward, his whole body shifted from alert to fully prepared. The judge's voice cut through the tense stillness. "Officer Daniels, what's happening?" Daniels swallowed hard. "Your Honor." That was a distress signal. The girl has just signaled the dog to protect her. A ripple of nervous whispers swept the courtroom. The man seated in the gallery shifted uneasily, breaths shallow, gripping the edge of his chair tight. Rex shot a razor-sharp glare at him, intense, pointed. The man recoiled, as if scorched by the look. The judge narrowed his eyes. "Bailiff, be ready." The bailiff stepped closer to the witness stand, one hand poised, alert. The girl's breathing quickened. She tugged at her dress, again softer this time, but no less urgent. Tears shimmered in her eyes, yet she didn't cry out. She said nothing, didn't scream. She placed her trust in Rex to speak where words failed her. Rex moved forward, positioning himself firmly between her and the gallery. His low growl grew louder, no longer mere warning, a bold proclamation. Attorney Miller murmured urgently, "Your Honor, the dog is signaling a threat with certainty. He's trained for this moment. He wouldn't react unless the girl's safety was at risk." The judge offered no doubt. "Not now, sweetheart," Judge Harrington said softly. "Has someone here harmed you?" She remained silent. She didn't have to answer. Her small hand gripped her dress again. Stronger, more determined, Rex leapt forward a half-step, body arched protectively, neither reckless nor aggressive, simply placing himself as the shield between peril and child. The courtroom filled with stunned gasps. The judge brought down his gavel with force. "Remain seated." Rex's deep, rumbling growl echoed through the room. The silent plea had been made, and the dog had risen to answer. His reaction was swift, precise, and it drew a collective gasp from half the courtroom. One heartbeat, he stood steady beside the girl. The next, he surged forward with purpose, planting himself decisively between her and the man in the gallery, as if confronting a threat only he could sense. His growl deepened, chest vibrating like a war drum. His stance widened, paws planted firmly, showing no teeth, yet radiating lethal focus, silent, restrained, poised for defense. The man froze his shoulders, rigid, eyes darting, searching for an escape. Sweat beaded along his temples. He tried to force a smirk, but his voice cracked in frustration. "Is this dog crazy or what he spat out?" "He's not crazy," Officer Daniels answered sharply, stepping forward. "He's responding to a danger signal from the child, and he's rarely wrong." The girl's hands trembled. She curled into her seat, clutching her worn, stuffed bunny, but her gaze never broke from Rex, her guardian, her silent sentinel. She whispered his name like a fragile prayer, meant only for him to hear. Rex's ears flicked back at the gentle tone of her voice, a soft whisper of comfort before fixing his gaze fiercely on the man who awakened every primal instinct within him. Judge Harrington slammed his gavel down. "Sir, stand up," he ordered sharply. The man flinched. "Why? I didn't do anything." Rex exploded with a single sharp bark, echoing like a gunshot, jolting several jurors in their seats. The bailiff stepped forward, his hand hovering near his cuffs. Daniel's voice grew urgent. "Your Honor, Rex is showing signs of heightened threat behavior. He's never reacted like this before." Daniel added, caught mid-sentence as Rex took a step forward. This step was stronger, more deliberate. Rex lowered his head, nostrils flaring wide, drawing in a scent no human could detect. A scent, a chemical, a haunting memory. The little girl shrank back, seeking refuge behind Rex's towering frame. Attorney Miller's voice was cautious but firm. "Your Honor, the child identified him earlier, and now the dog is confirming the same target." Judge Harrington's face tightened with resolve. "Bailiff, come closer to that man." The man rose abruptly, knocking the bench behind him over. "Don't come near me," he shouted, wild eyes blazing. The sudden outburst unleashed a wave of fear that swept through the courtroom. Rex barked again, short, sharp, and exact. The girl gasped. "Rex," she whispered as if pleading to hold him back, but Rex already knew. He had sensed the truth long before anyone dared to face it. The man's fear was not innocence, it was the terror of a predator, trapped at last. The dog's body tensed, every muscle alive with electricity ready to protect. The judge rose with authority. "Bailiff, secure him immediately." Chaos erupted. Officers surged forward. The man stumbled backward. The courtroom scattered like frightened birds. Yet through it all, Rex remained steadfast, an unyielding shield guarding innocence from looming danger. And deep inside, every soul there understood. Rex wasn't reacting to a mistake, he was responding to undeniable truth. The moment the man sprang to his feet, fear rippled like a brewing storm. Jurors recoiled in their chairs, spectators gasped sharply, and a mother in the second row clutched her chest as if her heart had skipped a beat. But Judge Harrington stood firm. He slammed his gavel again, crashing through the chaos like a clap of thunder. "Enough," his voice boomed. "Everyone stay exactly where you are." The room froze in place. Rex stood rigid, every muscle a shield forged from instinct. He positioned himself completely in front of the girl, guarding her fully, yet his eyes never left the man, no longer a mere bystander, but a cornered creature. The bailiff advanced cautiously. "Sir, sit down and keep your hands where I can see them." The man staggered back another step, colliding with the wooden barrier. "I swear I didn't do anything." "This dog's crazy," the man spat. "No, Judge Harrington," said coldly, rising. "This dog is trained, tested, trusted, and he's reacting to something you're doing." A low murmur spread throughout the gallery. Attorney Miller cleared his throat, steady though shaken. "Your Honor, Rex is responding to the child's confirmed distress signal. She pointed him out earlier." The judge nodded slowly, his expression hardening. "We're not dismissing that." The man threw up his hands in frustration. "She's just a kid. She doesn't know what she saw." Rex growled deep and low, a sound filled with precision and warning, a message to every adult in the courtroom that danger stood revealed. "Hear her out. Shield her. Stop him." The little girl whimpered, clutching tightly to Rex's vest as her fingers trembled. She remained silent, but words were unnecessary. The fear glaring in her eyes revealed more truth to the judge than any spoken word could. Judge Harrington stepped down from behind the bench, his movement resonant and commanding. "Mr. Bailiff, detain that man for questioning." The man's panic erupted. Wait, you misunderstand." "No, I understand perfectly," the judge replied, his tone colder than steel. "You frightened a child witness and provoked a fully trained protection dog. That alone grants me every right to pause these proceedings." He addressed the court clerk. "Make a note in the record the court is immediately in recess." Gasps filled the room. The judge directed the officers. "Clear the courtroom. Protect the witness and her mother. Take that man into custody." Rex moved forward again, positioning himself between the man and the officers, escorting him, the dog's presence casting an imposing shadow as the man's eyes widened with fear. "This is absurd," the man yelled. "It's all a setup." "No," Judge Harrington declared firmly. "This is justice responding to danger." With a deliberate gesture, he pointed towards the exit. "Everyone out. Court is adjourned until further notice." Rex stood resolute, solid as an unyielding rock, ensuring the threat was neutralized before the little girl even stirred from her seat. That was the moment the courtroom realized. The judge trusted this dog more than the man. Footsteps and whispered murmurs echoed as the room emptied, but Judge Harrington remained, steadfast eyes locked on the man held firm by two officers. Rex held his ground, body taut, muscles humming with unrelenting vigilance. Though most had left, the tension lingered thick, palpable, like smoke clinging to the air. The girl clung desperately to Rex's vest, her tiny fingers digging into the fabric as if it were her only lifeline. Her mother knelt beside her, embracing her. But the child stayed unresponsive, her gaze fixed, haunted on the man now pressed against the wall. Officer Daniels leaned toward the judge and whispered, "Your Honor." Rex is responding as though he recognizes a threat. Something about that man is deeply unsettling to him. Judge Harrington nodded, slowly determined. "Let's find out why." He stepped forward, stopping just within a few feet of the man. "State your name." The man swallowed hard. "Tom Larson." The judge's jaw clenched tight. "You're not listed as family, as a witness, nor a friend." "What's your purpose here?" Larson faltered. I came to support the defense. I heard about the case." Rex barked sharply, cutting him off. Officer Daniels advanced. "Your Honor, the dog is signaling deception." The judge narrowed his eyes. "Then verify his identity." Moments later, an officer returned, breathless. Your Honor, we ran his ID. This man is not Tom Larson." The judge's heart raced. "Then who is he?" The officer handed over a small file. The judge opened it, his face darkening. The man had a violent criminal record. The mother gasped softly, hand flying to her mouth as the judge's voice lowered, reading from the file. Multiple assault convictions, restraining orders. Then he froze on the last page. He was caught on a traffic camera near the girl's neighborhood the night of the incident. Color drained from Samant's face. The mother's breath hitched in a silent prayer. Oh God. Attorney Miller stepped forward, his voice trembling with gravity. Your Honor, this firmly places him at the scene. The girl whimpered softly, her voice fragile but unmistakably clear. He told me not to tell anyone. Every officer in the courtroom turned their attention to her. Her mother broke down into quiet sobs. The judge placed a steady hand on the bench, grounding himself against the weight of her confession. He said he'd hurt Mommy if I said anything, she whispered, clutching Rex's fur as if it were a shield between her and the world. Rex shifted, courageously positioning himself even more firmly between her and the man. The judge's voice hardened like steel. Take him into full custody immediately and reopen the case at once. The man panicked, thrashing wildly against the officers. She's lying. She's lying. But no one breathed a word of doubt, not after the girl spoke, not after Rex stood as her silent witness, not after the truth unfolded through the evidence laid bare. For the first time since this trial began, the courtroom saw the full reality. The girl wasn't just terrified. She was the lone survivor, the sole witness alive to speak his horrors. As the officers hauled the man away, the little girl's resolve crumbled. She hid her face deep in Rex's fur, her sobs so faint only the dog could hear. Rex lowered his head gently, nudging her, crafting a protective barrier around her fragile frame. His steady heartbeat and warm breaths were all that kept her from falling apart completely. Her mother rushed forward, collapsing to her knees beside her. Baby, it's all right now. It's over, she whispered through tears, but the girl shook her head, trembling violently. Judge Harrington rose from the bench, an act rare for him, and approached with deliberate care, not wanting to overwhelm her. Sweetheart, his voice soft as a lullaby, you're safe here. No one will ever hurt you again. She gripped Rex's fur tighter, knuckles blanched, breaths sharp and ragged. He said he'd come back, she sobbed out. He said even if they took him away, he would find me. Her mother's sobs grew louder. Oh God. Oh my God. Attorney Miller cleared his throat, swallowing the lump in his throat. Your Honor, may I be allowed to speak with the child in a gentler manner? I believe she wants to open up. She just doesn't know how yet. The judge nodded in understanding. Miller knelt a few feet away, giving her room. Sweetheart, can you tell us what happened that night? Only if you feel brave enough. Rex is here. Your mom's here. We will keep you safe. The girl lifted her tear-filled eyes toward Rex. The dog met her gaze with quiet strength, as if promising he could shoulder whatever truth she carried. Finally, she spoke beyond a whisper. He came into my room, she said, shaky. I heard the door creak open. I thought it was Mommy, but it wasn't. Tears flowed freely down her cheeks. He told me to stay quiet. He grabbed my arm. He said if I screamed, he'd hurt Mommy. Her mother buried her face in her hands, sobbing deeply. Rex moved closer, pressing his head gently beneath her arm like a lifeline. The girl clung to him fiercely. I tried to run. I tried to hide, she cried out. He pulled me back. He warned he'd come back for me if I told anyone. Miller's eyes glistened. And Rex, he found you, didn't he? She nodded slowly. He came later. When the police arrived, I was terrified. I was hiding in the closet. Her small voice trembled. Rex found me. He sat with me until dawn broke. He didn't move, not even once. The judge exhaled deeply, visibly shaken. This child's statement alone is enough to reopen every part of this case. Not even a single time. The judge let out a heavy breath, clearly unsettled. This child's testimony holds the power to unravel it all once more. The girl wiped away her tears, but held on to Rex with an unwavering grip. Can he stay with me? She asked, voice fragile yet hopeful. Judge Harrington didn't hesitate for a second. He won't leave your side, not even for a heartbeat. Rex nudged her gently again, sealing that unspoken vow. For the first time since the nightmare unfolded, The truth finally broke free because a brave little girl dared to speak, and a loyal dog refused to let her face her fears all alone. Judge Harrington slowly rose back to his bench, but the weight of what he had just heard hung heavy in the room, like a thick shadow refusing to lift. His hands, usually steady and sure, gripped the edges of the desk as he drew a long breath, eyes locked on the little girl clutching Rex, as if he were the only anchor in her breaking world. Officer Daniels moved the dog with gentle care, helping the girl settle in, while her mother held her close, shielding her with protective arms. Rex stayed pressed tightly to the child, his gaze unwavering, guarding every movement in the courtroom with unblinking vigilance. When the judge finally spoke, his voice was steady yet thick with emotion. "Let the record reflect," he said deliberately, "that due to newly revealed evidence and the child's safety concerns, this court will immediately reopen the case." Murmurs rippled quietly among the few remaining courtroom staff. The judge raised a hand, silencing the room. "This child has endured a lifetime's worth of fear," he continued. "Today, she showed courage far beyond her years, and she's alive, able to speak because of that dog standing right here beside her." Attorney Miller nodded with deep gratitude, while the court reporter discreetly wiped away tears. The judge turned to the officers. "Nine, keep the suspect in full custody. No bail, no exceptions. I want him isolated until every detail is uncovered by investigators." "Yes, Your Honor." Then the judge looked back at the girl, his stern expression softening, the harshness carved by years on the bench melting away for the sake of this frightened child. "You were incredibly brave today," he spoke gently. "You told the truth, and Rex made sure you were safe enough to do it." The girl didn't answer. She buried her face once more in Rex's fur, her breaths shaky and uneven. Her mother wiped away tears and whispered, "Thank you, Your Honor." The judge's voice rang with quiet strength. "This court," he declared firmly, "will make certain you never have to fear him again." He tapped his gavel softly, not the usual forceful strike, but a gentle, reassuring finality. Court is adjourned. Rex rose as the little girl stood never straying from her side. His tail swayed with calm grace, sensing her relief, yet his eyes remained sharp, still guarding, still watching, still ready. In that moment, everyone in the courtroom understood something deeper than law itself had just taken place. Justice had been served not by the system's hand, but because a steadfast dog refused to let the truth stay buried. The hallway outside courtroom 3C felt like a different world, quieter, softer, untouched by the storm that had raged moments before. Officers stood silently along the walls, voices hushed, and movements careful as the girl stepped forward with Rex pressed tightly to her side. Once they reached the open space, her mother dropped to her knees and wrapped her in a trembling embrace. "You're safe now," she whispered again and again, as if saying it over would erase every nightmare from her daughter's mind. Rex stayed right by her side, not a single step away, close enough for the girl to feel his warm breath brush her cheek. She held her hand deep in his thick fur, as if his warmth was the only anchor keeping her steady in the storm. Officer Daniels came closer, lowering himself beside Rex. "You did great, boy," he murmured, rubbing behind the shepherd's ear softly, better than any of us could have hoped. Rex leaned into the comfort for just a moment before his gaze returned to the girl, never leaving her side, always vigilant. Attorney Miller stepped into the hallway, the hard edge of his professional mask softening as he crouched to her eye-level, voice tender. "I know it scared you," he said quietly, "but your courage was beyond brave. We couldn't have made it through this without you." The girl stayed silent, but reached out with tiny fingers to gently touch Miller's sleeve, a quiet thank you. Then her eyes shifted to Rex, and something inside her finally eased. Her shoulders relaxed. Her trembling slowed, and she pressed her forehead softly against the dog's warm head. Rex shut his eyes, breathing in sync with her, matching her pulse to keep her calm. Her mother wiped away tears, looking toward the officers. Is Rex allowed to stay with her?" Officer Daniels smiled warmly. "Ma'am, after today, I'm pretty sure the judge would sign papers ensuring this dog never leaves her side." As if understanding every word, Rex nudged the girl's cheek, and she let out a tiny, fragile giggle, the first flicker of light after a long, dark night. The judge appeared, then his face weary but gentle. "She's safe?" he said softly. "And until this case is fully settled, Rex stays with her. Consider it an order." The girl clung tightly to Rex's neck, whispering softly into his fur, for the first time since the ordeal began, feeling safe, because her hero was right by her side. The late afternoon sun poured through the courthouse windows, casting warm, golden stripes along the hallway floor as the little girl walked hand in hand with her mother. Rex trotted faithfully beside her, his steps perfectly matching hers, silently promising that she would never walk a path alone again. Outside, the hum of police cars was calm, their lights no longer flashing. Detectives spoke quietly, planning the next moves in the reopened case. But the harsh tension in the courtroom had melted away, replaced with something softer: respect, admiration, and a shared understanding that justice had taken a profound and powerful turn that day. The girl stopped near the courthouse doors. She looked down at Rex, eyes still weary, but free from fear. Slowly lowering herself, she wrapped her arms around his neck, burying her face in the gentle fur on his chest. "You saved me," she whispered. Rex answered with a soft whine, nuzzling her cheek, as if to say he'd do it again 1,000 times without hesitation. Her mother knelt beside them, her hand resting on Rex's back. "We'll never forget what you did," she said, voice thick with emotion. "You're our hero." Officer Daniels stepped forward with a kind smile. "Rex wasn't just working," he said softly. "He was guarding someone he loves deeply." The girl glanced up at him. "Can he stay with me forever?" Daniels looked toward the judge just stepping outside behind them. Judge Harrington nodded with heartfelt warmth. "He's officially assigned to you until the case wraps up," he said. "And unofficially, nobody here has the heart to pull you apart after everything you two have been through." The girl's face lit up like never before inside that courtroom. She wrapped her arms around Rex once more. This time the embrace was tighter, filled with hope and a deep sense of relief, as the officers guided the mother and child towards their waiting vehicle. Rex slipped in behind them, settling beside the girl, as if that spot right next to her had been his all along. The door closed softly. The engine roared to life, and for the very first time in what felt like forever, the girl rested her head against someone without a trace of fear because Rex was there. Not all heroes wear capes, and not all carry badges. Some simply stand as shields between the shadows and the innocent. And sometimes the bravest soul in the room walks on 4 paws.